I'll give you a minute to grab a drink or get settled before we get going. I just wanted to use the time while you get a drink, maybe, and you have maybe the speaker on, to a huge shout out to Michael Healy for getting this group together. Incredible what he's done. I'm overwhelmed by all the creative energy that I've already seen this morning of people thinking about, creative solutions outside of the box to make this planet even more beautiful than it already is. So my name is Gerry Haag. I'm calling from Mallorca, and we've got something to celebrate today. We're on day 48 of lockdown, and tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, I can leave the house for the first time. And I'm likely going to do that with a surfboard under my arm and head to the ocean. There's some confusion. Apparently, you're allowed to surf, but you're not allowed to swim. So we'll see. You might have to bail me out from jail tomorrow, but it's a huge step for Spain and the first step to open. So what you see here, I want to talk to you a little bit about happy humans and how that applies to making the world a better place, as the title insinuates. You see here a picture of a northern beach in Mallorca. That's actually where Happy Humans was born about 3 years ago, with a number of people, and actually there's one here in the group that I can see. Whoops. I need to keep going. Hang on. There we go. I have been building or supporting teams to build internet companies in the last 2 decades. And I'm currently supporting a company called Peloton, which brings connected fitness into people's homes. And also a company that's called GAD, Drilling Anywhere, which has a plasma bit technology for accessing geothermal anywhere on the planet as a on-demand energy source that can solve our climate change crisis. As I grew older, my hair got whiter, and my 4 children started growing up. I expanded my vision from the orange down here, just in my own little tribe, to think more about state, nation, union of nations, and really about humanity. So this urge to think about creating a better world came, advanced for me over time. This was the lead up to where we even started with Happy Humans. And when I was reflecting on what it takes to create a desirable world for humanity, one of the first things I sort of realized was that no one ever has stopped progress in the history of humanity. So, progress continues. And in fact, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So I think we as humans have the capability to direct the future of the planet and to build a world that we want to live in. The other thing that I realized, and sorry, just quickly, I'm going to share a few slides, and then I'm going to open up for questions and for feedback. So I'd love your thoughts on the ideas that I'm going to share with you. So this is a diagram from Vishen Lakhiani, the founder of Mind Valley, one of the largest mindfulness organizations in the world. And over several years and decades, I found myself in the upper left here, which is the current reality trap. So that means I'm actually happy in the now, but I don't really have a vision for the future. I'm just sort of doing the Eckhart Tolle thing of being here right now, which, as we know, is a good way to be. But over the last few years, I realized that if you combine the happiness of the now with the vision for the future, that's when you can start what Vishen calls to bend reality. So actually influencing where the world goes and creating a world. And this upper right-hand corner of this graph is actually what started to create the idea of happy humans. Happy Humans is as I mentioned earlier, is a group of people who get together in regular intervals, and we basically discuss a desirable future for humanity. So what we want the world to look like in all its different aspects that entails. And there's obviously a lot of aspects that are involved. So when we started with the idea, one of the first things I did is I went out to many people. I did a total of 400 of these interviews. I asked the question about human powers. So the question was, if the next level of future human beings is a tech-enhanced cyborg, which human qualities, or cyber-human, which human qualities would you take with you? Or asked a different way, which elements of the human being are worth preserving, special, unique? So basically, the question which Yuval Harari also always poses is, why would we preserve humanity? What's special about us was the question. And the people I asked was a wide range of age, color, race, religion, from many taxi drivers around the world, but also random people I just met and in different places. And the answers I got. Sorry, one question. I think I'm stuck here. Let's see. There we go. So these are, it's some representative, this is basically the core that I received back from all 400 people. There was very little disparity from this. And I've they're sort of grouped in three bunches here. The first one was really all about, the feelings, the sentient side of the human being. So it was a lot about compassionate, loving, and empathic. So the general thought was that these are abilities that the human being has that other beings, and especially cyborgs and robots, currently do not have. The other group is all around curiosity, innovation, imagination, and that's, I think, very representative of the group that is here. I think all of us here listening and presenting are curious. We've kept a little bit the little child in us that we've always had. We are, innovative and imaginative. And the third group is about the self-aware. We all know about the Turing test that is applied to AI systems, and reflected and intuitive. So intuition is another strong human element that's worth preserving. So I was actually positively surprised. It's actually quite a bit. It's not all bad. Like we have some elements of humans that we would like to use and continue. Now, when you're looking at the sentience part of the human, this is adapted from Dr. David Hawkins. It's a logarithmic scale from 0 to 1,000, and 1,000 is not on here because that's Jesus and Buddha, so it's reserved for a few that have made it all the way up there. But you can see the rest of them, and they're basically grouped in contracted and expanded vibrations. You could also say from fear, general, more fear-based emotions to more love-based. And the argument that the happy humans are putting forward, and many others are following this, or have posed this way before us, is that we've been moving up this color scheme. So we've come from orange and are now somewhere in the middle and moving upwards. So from contracted to expanded, from just getting by to being in the flow and the pure Tao. This is, the Maslow pyramid of needs has this, many other systems have this also in there. Now, this is, there's a lot of content in here, and I'm not going to go into every detail, but I just wanted to share this, list of stages from spiral dynamics, or Ken Wilber. And as you can see, again, we're going from the lower vibrations here. We're probably, most of us will be somewhere between orange and green, or green between green and teal. Basically from rational, scientific, individualistic and democracy to more pluralism, equality, relativistic, and sensitivity. So what this shows is that as a human species, we have evolved over the last 250,000, 500,000 years. And it is very likely that we will continue to evolve, and that is our hope. That is what we want to happen. Now, this is a very simplistic view. Of course, there are numerous ways to look at the different dimensions. There's many more dimensions involved in complexity. But what we've tried to do is bring this down to a very simple sort of two-dimensional view of where society could go. And the two axes that are on this are the level of technization or digitization that a society has. And so that's the x-axis, and the y-axis is your level of consciousness. So arguably, if you're in a high vibration emotion, feeling, it's easier to access higher levels of consciousness. So that's why we have a more fear-based society down at the bottom, and a more love-based society at the top. And if we look at the current globe, so we've got roughly Bhutan up in the upper left corner. We've got most of the globe down here in this quadrant, with Europe maybe being a little bit higher on the consciousness level, US a little bit further on the digitization tech level, China certainly more digitized than the rest of the world. And where we can go from here are obviously endless options. The ones that we sort of looked at are, if we look at the extreme sides here, one would be back to nature, which would be going to gypsy towns like Byron Bay. There's plenty of those around in the world which are beautiful, but they're basically going back to nature and not actively involved in progress or technological progress. The other side here is the Borg society, which is if we continue down the full AI, full control path, which would focus on technology. And what we propose is Veritopia, which is a term Byron Reese from a book called The Fourth Age proposed, which is a utopia that's real. And that is a combination of finding, the human being elevating the consciousness from fear vibration to love and trust, so opening our heart, connecting back to our source, but also embracing technology if and where it makes sense. So rather than denying technology, we see a blend of the digital world and the human world, but it has to happen in a sensible way. So this is our just an idea to spark thoughts and to spark a discussion. This is one path where we could go and where we may want to go. So the key things I wanted to leave you with before I open up the discussion is that one thing that was very interesting when you start talking to people about how they see the future is that there's a huge overlap, irrespective of education, race, color, religion, age. Most of us want love, abundance, peace, and freedom. And so anything that we can do to advance the world in that direction, I think, is positive. If we're looking at technology, we're at a point right now. Obviously, there's the COVID discussion. There's a lot of discussion around AI. I think we believe there's a strong need for technology ethicists, philosophers, and sociologists. Because if you look at who's building tech today, a lot of the people who are actually building it have Asperger disease, and they admit to that, which means they don't actually have empathy. And it's not that they mean bad, they just don't understand. And so it's a good thing for us as a society, I think, to have in their teams ethicists and philosophers on their side. The other thing that's very interesting when we look at human consciousness is that there now, as we see today, there's global access to a broad variety of transformative content. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that I feel very strongly that those human powers that we talked about earlier, that they can drive change. So with that, I'm gonna stop sharing, and I would like to open it up for questions from anyone. Yeah, so Gagik, you said that maybe being in the now is how the future is created. I think that's a very good point. I do agree that rather than planning everything, the most important for us is to be in positive high vibration energy right now, and then good things will come. However, I think there's always room and a positive space for dreaming. So to dream about what we want helps us. It doesn't necessarily mean we're totally driven on that path, but to be in a positive energy and have sort of a vision out there that we would like to follow, I think is a possible path to success. Does that answer your point, Gagik?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I want to comment about Bhutan. Bhutan's former Prime Minister, Tsering, was my classmate, and when they announced about, the happiness vision for the country, I sent him my view of happiness. I was flying some, and I just put it on paper. I'll send it to you also. I believe you don't. It is not enough for people to say we want love and happiness and so on and so on. And we always say, I think it's very high level when we speak about happiness and others important things. But I think it's bottom up lots of work that we need to put by changing the human nature, work avoidance, everything that brings us to this havoc, and whatever we have, what we don't like, and we want love, but we are in hate, and this is what we are practically. So I think it's important for us to come together to really implement change. We just made the revolution in Armenia recently, and it was a velvet revolution. People walking on streets without any violence, outthrowing 30 years of corruption and huge power. And the country has turned. I hope it will not go back because of how we like not to work. But there are some examples that we can take from India to bringing people together. Thank you for the.
Thanks, Gagik. I'd love to continue the conversation with you, and I agree how to mobilize more people to be in a positive energy and to build this world, right? So those examples are great. I'd love to hear more about it. Jaime is asking a question.
Okay.
Jaime, you want to talk? Oh, I'll read it out. What do you see as the societal differences between US and Europe that affect where they are in your diagram? What do you think needs to happen to affect an evolution towards a more empathetic, evolved society? Oof, very good question. Do you have an answer to it? I think one of the things we're seeing is that in the US, or actually in the entire Western world, and that's another discussion that we're having, is you know, we've actually been so trained to perform and to get ahead of our neighbor and to get ahead of everybody else, that our inert urge to support each other and to be communal and empathetic has been suppressed. And you know, arguably that sort of competitiveness and the need to go ahead and on top of each other has been, you know, more pushed in the US. What do I think needs to happen? To your second part to the question, I believe that the increasing consciousness in humanity would be greatly supported by all these offerings that are out there now, all the content for personal growth, for transformation. There's plenty of content right now, and you know, we've been forced into deceleration and ideally have time to look at some of these things. I realize that for the majority of the people, they are worried about having bread right now. They're not worried about how to reach the Buddha stage. I do believe that you know, just this, if you just look at this event, this was probably not going to happen a year ago, and the fact that we all getting together here with hundreds of people from around the world is a good sign to me. And if each of us can bring this out to you know, our group of our network and people around us, I think that's a good starting point. Alexander, you had a question?
Yes. I'm over here in Florida in America, and I feel that people here are not very green conscious, and they have a general feeling of apathy and that they can't really make a difference, therefore they don't even try. Do you find that there is better success in the rest of the world to pay attention to the issues that are affecting all of our lives? You know, coronavirus just being a part of it that set it into a new direction. Everybody's understanding that life has changed drastically and nobody even knows what to do about it.
Yeah, so I think in general, one thing that seems to help for being interested in developing ideas and helping to support initiatives that make a better world is actually travel. Because when you travel, you understand other cultures better, and you know, Europeans and other parts of the world have a history of traveling a lot more than if people in Florida would have.
Well, sir, just so you know, I am German, Ukrainian, and Russian descent.
So
I was in Warsaw last year and in Odessa, and it's particularly in Ukraine. I'm watching the people are so afraid of their jobs. Jobs are hard to come by, and most of the people that I have met in Ukraine are making $10 a day if they're lucky. Now, their restaurants are just as expensive as the ones in Florida, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how they're surviving, but I have found that they're afraid. They're afraid of their own economy, and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. The other thing I would say, Alexander, that a lot of the the leading transformative content actually comes from the US. You know, there's a huge group of people in America who are leading edge and thinking of, you know, amazing ideas how to create the world. But, you know, it's a yin and yang in America. Like you say, there's many people who have no interest, who sort of throw in the white towel. And then there's a lot of people who haven't given up the hope and who are, you know, very smart and who basically access global content. I mean, just look at this group. I find it amazing. You know, there's like, even with the people in here, we come from all different parts of the world. So in a way, when I talked about travel earlier, the current digital connection culture makes it actually possible for us to connect much more and much more often with people from around the globe. So I think that's quite strong, and to pick that up, and that's accessible to anybody. And so hopefully that'll be utilized. Yeah. Thanks.
Now, I have been working quietly for the last 25 years, testing multiple prototypes that will create electricity, basically self-regenerating without the use of solar or fuels or nuclear or batteries or even wind farms and so forth. In fact, I might be commenting more. Maciej Kowalski is a good friend of mine. He'll be speaking next, I believe. I'm looking to see what I can do to attract green investors, because I see a paradox in terms of there's a lot of people who are green-minded. And in America, for example, electric cars are the rage. Everything is going electric cars. Yet, every night, those electric cars have to be recharged, and they're being recharged by unclean electricity that comes from power plants that use anything from nuclear, atomic power, coal, gasoline, and so forth. So you're burning dirty electricity in order to fuel clean electricity. So there's a paradox in that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, that's a discussion that there's a very big discussion in Europe right now, how to shift the energy, all this that's into fighting or dealing with this virus. How can we shift that to the much bigger problem, which is, combating climate change and solving the climate issue with renewable energy, with energy solutions. So let's connect afterwards on that, because I think it's a very strong topic. I wanted to, lastly, and then I'll hand it over to Stuart. Lastly, I wanted to just pick up the question from Andreas, which was the stable tribe of, how to build that kind of stable tribe of happy humans. How do we get there? How can we get closer in a quicker way? Do you find out about something like a framework or a guideline to get on the steering wheel? So I'm very happy for you guys to throw ideas at us. I mean, Happy Humans is obviously a passion project where we're getting more and more people together to share ideas. But how to put that onto a framework is a very good question. I would point you to a talk later from Thomas Schindler, who's actually created such a framework that around a desirable future for humanity. So there's actually a talk coming, I think, in about an hour and a half. So yeah, Green New Deal ahead. That's true. One last question from somebody? No? Okay. So thank you, everybody. I'll put my email here in the chat so you can connect with me. I'm happy to share, and also the Happy Humans community, give you guys a minute and then hand over to Stuart, which is actually, I think Stuart's going to tell us how to do it.